Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr here today for Lawn Fawn with a sleigh full of cookies card to share with you. This card features the awesome new How You Bean Christmas Cookies add-on stamp set, and I thought it would be really fun to fill those cookies in a sleigh for my scene card here today. We're going to start by building the background of our card on some Lawn Fawn Mermaid cardstock. The benefit of using a colorful cardstock to ink on is that we're not going to have to use quite as heavy of a hand. I'm using some Lawn Fawn dye inks to apply some Blue Jay and Deep Sea inks to the mermaid cardstock. You really aren't going to get a whole lot of the mermaid look kind of down near the base of the scene where the sky is going to meet the rooftop. That is where you're going to kind of see a little bit of that lighter blue color, but it's definitely going to be a more concentrated darker blue up near the top. And I'm using a little bit heavier hand to apply that deep sea color up there. I love how these colors work together to create the night sky. Once I have my inks blended the way I want them to look, I am going to go ahead and take one of my very favorite newest products from Lawn Fawn, which is the Liquid Stardust. This is awesome. If you use it with Distress Oxides or reactive inks of any kind, it's going to wick away the color underneath. If you want to use it over top a dye inked background like I'm doing here today, it's going to add subtle sparkle and shine over this kind of ink as well. So there's lots of things, but look when I tip it there into the light, see how it shimmers and shines. It just creates that beautiful sparkling snow effect that I wanted for the sky in my Christmas scene card. I really, really love this product. You could even paint it on certain areas of your images if you wanted to, as another way to use this awesome product. I'm going to clean up my work surface really quick before moving on to stamping my images from the How You Bean Christmas Cookies add-on stamp set. That's going to be the assortment of Christmas cookies, that grouping there that we're going to tuck into the sleigh, the individual gingerbread man, and then from the Ho Ho Holidays stamp set, we're going to stamp Santa, the reindeer, and the reins and sleigh. So kind of incorporating several new products from the holiday release here, but I love to do that. I know this is a How You Bean add-on stamp set, the Christmas cookies, so it's going to fit in those jars that Lawn Fawn has had out, and they keep adding awesome add-ons to that. And while that was my initial thought and I was going to create one of those cards, it popped into my head, I wonder if the cookies would fit in the new sleigh image from Ho Ho Holidays. And wouldn't that be kind of cute and funny to have a sleigh full of Christmas cookies? Almost like Santa is delivering toys, and as he comes back up from the chimney, he is just filling his sleigh full of Christmas cookies. And so I thought it would be really kind of fun to tuck them into the sleigh as a completely different way to use this image, and to maybe inspire and show you other ways to use an image, because obviously it was meant to be used with How You Bean, so you can use it in those awesome glass jars, but there are many ways you can use this, and this is just another idea. Now I am using beige and medium beige as the base of my sugar cookies, so that's going to be the actual cookie part. Then I am quote unquote frosting them with colors. So the darker brown color is going to be the color for the gingerbread men, but other than that, I'm going to do colorful. So we're going to have a red frosted tree. We're going to have a green frosted tree. We're going to have a yellow frosted star, a blue frosted star, and a pink frosted bell. After I did the first couple of images, I went ahead and did the cookie part on all of the cookies here in this grouping, and then I'm going to frost them all. One of the awesome things about this How You Bean Christmas Cookies add-on is you have the ability to leave the cookies blank like this, or you can customize them with any assortment of great images. So I'm going to use some frosting, I call it frosting images, some sprinkle images. You can add custom faces, buttons, trim to the gingerbread men. There's lots of different ways to do this, but I wanted to make sure that the cookies were the star of the show. So the gingerbread man is going to be getting a face and some buttons, and the cookies are all going to get some stamped and embossed frosting. Let's move on to the sleigh from Ho Ho Holidays, colored with carmine red and light carmine. We're also going to use a light gray marker and a blender for the trim along the top of the sleigh, and then gray and light gray for the bottom of the sleigh. I will be taking some Nuvo Crystal Drops in White Blizzard and adorning that trim along the top edge of the sleigh, as well as the trim on Santa's outfit when I'm completely done putting the card together. Nuvo Crystal Drops made a big impact in my card today. I'm using a lot of them, probably the most I've ever used on a card, and that really wasn't on purpose. I got started and kept seeing different ways to add them to my scene to really make it pop. The reindeer, I love the latest addition to the cute reindeer that Lawn Fawn has. So another idea is kind of go back to your past year's sets of holiday stamp sets from Lawn Fawn, and they just keep adding to the reindeers. So there's lots of different styles. I think that's amazing. I am coloring him in with mid-brown, beige, medium beige, and a blender. The blender is really only used for the antlers, and then a little pink haze for the insides of the ear, the cheek, and carmine red for the nose. So this is Rudolph, but it doesn't have to be. We have got one final gingerbread man cookie, the reins and Santa left to color. I did color in the bells here for the color in yellow, and I knew pretty much immediately that was not going to fly. I used gray and light gray for the rest of the image, and I liked that, but the yellow is just too sunshiny. And I knew that I had products that I could use for those bells on the collar that was going to be a lot more effective. I opted to use Nuvo Crystal Drops in bright gold to adorn those bells, which I think really works nice. But you could also use small gemstones, small sparkly gemstones. There are ways that you can dress up those little bells to really make them shine for such a small image. For Santa, we've got some carmine red and light carmine for his outfit, and then light gray in a blender for the trim on his hat, for his beard, his mustache, the trim on his coat. I would very much recommend, and I did not do it, and that's why I'm telling you now, red is tricky. These are water-based markers, meaning if you take a lighter marker like the light gray and it accidentally touches up next to the red, it's going to pull some of that red into the trim. So I highly recommend coloring in anything that's light first. I forgot, so I had to be really, really careful and really conscious of the fact that if I touched it at all, I would pull some of that into it. But luckily I was able to color this in pretty easily without too much bleeding. His belt is gray and light gray. The buckle for this, I did go ahead and use yellow. I didn't mind it so much here. The boots, which you're actually not even going to end up seeing, so I probably wouldn't have had to color that in. At the time, I wasn't sure how much of Santa was going to be visible popping up out of the chimney, So I went ahead and colored the whole thing in. Then I colored in my final gingerbread man, and now it's time to add embellishment to the cookies. And I'm going to add some frosting images by taking the Lawn Fawn clear embossing ink and heat embossing with white embossing powder. So we've got some squiggle frosting, we've got some sprinkle type frosting or just sprinkles. We have cute faces for the gingerbread men. I'm going to use 2 different faces. We're going to add buttons to the gingerbread men. Now I'm doing no line coloring for most of my images here, but I opted for this step, for the step of adding faces to the cookies, to use a black ink. We're going to use the Lawn Fawn Black Licorice ink to add those, and that goes for the buttons as well. One great thing, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, these are water-based markers, the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, meaning I can color over the brown center of my cookies with a red marker, and it should show up pretty well. It may not be quite as bright red, but it is going to color over that, so we will have a little bit of that contrast. Here are their cute little faces. And then we're simply going to just keep adding sprinkles and frosting to the cookies in the cookie grouping image. You could always opt to not use the group photo if you don't want to, and stamp the individual cookies and stamp the solid parts with a solid ink on the cookie. That is a fun idea as well, instead of doing maybe quite so much coloring. Once I have all of my images stamped, embossed, all the detail added, do note that I don't like to add the glaze pen for the eye, in this case the eye for the reindeer, until the images are die cut. It tends to kind of flatten the eye out if you run it through the die cutting machine after you've done that. So I have learned over time to go ahead and save that step until the end, because it's really important to add that eye detail because it makes that face come to life. But other than that, I die cut all of the images, which is going to be the group of cookies, the sleigh, the reins, the reindeer, Santa, and the individual gingerbread man cookie. And we'll use the coordinating dies, run those through the Spellbinders Platinum die cutting machine, and then we are ready to kind of pull it all together. The final new product that I am using today is the Rooftop Border dies, and that's going to come with 2 scallops and then 2 pieces for the chimney. And what is so awesome about this is the 2 scallop borders are different, so they layer really nicely, and they are exactly 5.5 inches long, so they're going to fit across the bottom of a landscape style card perfectly. You can just trim them down if you're going to use a portrait style card. And I'm going to assemble those, kind of taping them in place one on top of another. I've got a little strip here. It's 1.5 inches by 5.5 inches of chili pepper cardstock that we're going to place along the bottom edge of the card as the house portion. And then we're just going to add the rooftop with the storm cloud, or pardon me, the narwhal cardstock inked with storm cloud die ink. I went ahead and assembled them and then inked them, but you could ink them first if you wanted to. I didn't want to do a ton of extra inking, meaning where they overlap and stuff, I was afraid I was just going to be spending a lot of extra work inking something that wasn't going to, be visible. So I went ahead and inked it afterwards. I'm using a really teeny tiny blender brush, Just kind of messily adding this to the rooftop, giving it a little bit more depth and dimension. How much fun is that? I love these dies. I think they're so, so cute. Look at that little chimney. Then we're going to add that right to the house. We're going to take the Storm Cloud ink and add some distressing to the chimney piece, to the little layering piece here that goes on the chimney, and then we're going to tuck that on our card as well. I've laid out my images so that I can gauge kind of where that chimney needs to go, so that I leave enough room for the sleigh and the reindeer to the left of the chimney. Now you can really see here those scallops on the rooftop are a little bland and a little blah. Cute, totally cute, but a little blah. And so I knew I wanted to add some great embellishing to this to make the whole thing really shine. So this card is very embellishment heavy, meaning I'm taking Nuvo Crystal Drops in Gloss White, Woodland Green, and Autumn Red, and adding drops to the scallops on the rooftop, which adds a lot of texture, almost gingerbread house-like looking, even though this isn't. But you could make a gingerbread house and do kind of the same thing. But the little drops are just going to dress those scallops up so well. And I did these first, and this has a lot of drops. So this is going to be a card that really needs to sit for 24 to 48 hours, I think, before you try to mail it. So don't try to mail something that you've put Nuvo Crystal Drops on right away, as they need a little time to cure and really harden. Then the bright gold, as I mentioned when I was coloring in the collar and the reins on this image, I used that bright gold, which looks so much better than the yellow. I love that. We're going to add some gloss white drops to the sky to reinforce the falling snow feel. I just kept adding more and more. This was one of those cards where I just kept adding. I drew in some dripping wet snow, I guess, along the top edge of the chimney, and I like that so much that I went ahead and did the same thing along the entire rooftop. And it did take a little bit of work. It does take quite a lot of product, I guess. I've had this same bottle of Gloss White though forever, and I use it all the time. The only bottle I've ever had to replace or get another of is White Blizzard. So if that kind of helps you at all, I've had this one a long time and I still have plenty in it. But look how awesome that white dripping snow looks along the top edge of the roof. It looks so good. Okay, then White Blizzard, as I was talking about, I am going to use that to add a glittery trim to the hat pom-pom, the trim around the coat, the trim around the sleigh, and that's going to be super glittery and iridescent when dry. Some crystal lacquer for the tip of Rudolph's nose, and then we will pop this on a white side fold card base. I stamped sentiments from the How You Bean Christmas Cookies stamp set. So we've got peace, joy, love, and cookies stamped in a row. That's 2 phrases. I used the Deep Sea and Lobster inks, and then we're going to use the phrase to a very sweet and the word friend stamped with Deep Sea, trim those into thin strips, and pop them up along the rooftop. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Christmas scene card featuring Lawn Fawn stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Lawn Fawn products that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell to never miss a new video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.